But in the Bible generally, in the wisdom literature specifically, as you come to understand the wisdom of God, you can become wise beyond your years. And so you can accelerate the extent to which you are a person of wisdom. Does our world need it? Yeah, I'm thinking pretty much so. You know, someone made the observation, forget the fountain of youth. How about a fountain of smart? I would even amend that further to fountain of wise, fountain of wisdom. Because, there are a lot of smart people out there that aren't very wise. Moving from knowledge to wisdom. And it's very possible for people to be Bible smart and unwise. Not just smart and unwise, Bible smart and unwise. And here's kind of the way I think about this. See if this is helpful for you. In life, there are people you go to for information. And there are people you look to for advice. That's the difference between smart and wise. The person you look to for advice, that's the sage. Now, if you find a person that you can go to for information and a person that you can go to for advice, that's a gold mine right there. And it's possible to have some horse sense that makes you decent at giving some kind of advice, but not especially skilled at pointing people in pathways God would have. It's not just a matter of knowing the Bible and knowing wisdom texts, because it takes wisdom to apply wisdom. One of the things that Proverbs start with is the fact that it takes wisdom to apply Proverbs. So in some ways, biblical wisdom is an elusive category where it takes wisdom to apply wisdom. Because you're deciding which wisdom principles apply to what situations. So if you haven't noticed, in part we're moving towards something of a biblical definition of wisdom, which has to do with applied truth in a way that brings the wholeness and abundance that God intends for us to experience. But it's not just, people sometimes almost just make this a practical application of truth. Sometimes I think biblical wisdom is figuring out which truths most significantly apply to this situation. All truth is always equally true, but it doesn't apply in exactly the same way to every situation. You can't ever abandon truth. But, sometimes you'll, sure, when you're talking about speak the truth in love, the sermon that you preach is, you always do both. As soon as you're less than truthful or less than loving, you just miss the whole thing, because this isn't a matter of deciding between the two. It's a matter of doing both completely. Okay, that's great. That's true. But in wisdom, you come to places like Proverbs, where you get this. Proverbs 26, verse 4, Proverbs 26, verse 5. Answer a fool according to his folly. Save him from the error of his way. Whatever you do, don't answer a fool according to his folly, or you'll be just like it. Which is it? The two verses are right next to each other. Answer, it depends. That's why it takes wisdom to apply wisdom. When you're in an epistle like Ephesians 4:16, speak the truth in love. Truthing in love. My brothers, we're truthing in love. And if you're not truthing, or you're not loving, you're missing the verse, because it's truthing in love. Truth and love are not in conflict with one another. Truth and love. Demonstrate love by truthing. It's not either or. It's both and. Totally and all the time, all the way. Yeah, but you're in an epistle there. Then you move into wisdom, you get answer a fool according to his folly. You may save him from the error of his way. Whatever you do, don't answer a fool according to his folly, or you'll be just like it. You can't take the principles of, did you apply to a text like Ephesians 4:16 and apply them to wisdom literature, which is situational by design. So how do you decide that? In part, you look at the fool. In part, your relationship to the fool helps dictate this. Because here's the deal. Some people, once you become a mirror for them, soften up, see the error of their ways, and change. So let's go, well, fine, you want to do this? I'll take your fool and raise you a fool. And it actually becomes a means to transformation. For other people, either because the fool is such a fool or because the wisdom dispenser isn't altogether, you try to answer a fool according to his folly and you end up becoming just like him. There's a very disciplined way to become a mirror for the fool. But there's also a way that in an effort to start out doing good, you can become just like the fool. So you got to know yourself. You got to know the fool. You got to figure out how this stuff works in text to figure out what you do. I think a lot of biblical wisdom boils down to stuff like that. So while it takes wisdom to employ biblical wisdom, it's also true that the more you get to know God and the more you get to know life, the wiser you become. And you can accelerate your wisdom by viewing life through the lens of Scripture. Studying Scripture carefully. Getting to know God intimately. And paying close attention to what's going on around you, outside of you, through the filtering and interpretive influence of life lived in communion with God and in study of God's truth. So I say all of that to say at this early stage of the discussion on wisdom, don't be afraid of this. Because while on the one hand, we do associate wisdom with lots of life experience, it is also true that people can become wise beyond their years And you have an opportunity through your focused experience here at Johnson University to accelerate your development as a person who is wise and therefore a person who is able to dispense wisdom. Because where that comes from is the very places that you have a particular opportunity to invest in and grow in as a result of your experience here. So don't be afraid of that. And in part, when you're trying to figure out how to remain motivated even in your studies, I mean, I'm sure, I know that's not a problem for you guys. For the people out there on TV land, I'm sure that's not a problem for you all either out there in TV land, ever staying focused in your studies. But a part of what really helps with that is, honestly, you want to live wisely, you want to help other people live wisely. You invest in what produces wisdom as a byproduct of those processes. You just invest in it day by day. Because you don't microwave wisdom. Wisdom does not come in a microwave oatmeal container. Just add water, put it in for a minute 30, poof. The sage jumps out. A lot of it happens in the crock pot, not in the microwave. But you just got, but by the same token, you've got an opportunity to develop more quickly because at an early and strategic age, you are in the place to invest heavily in the sources from which wisdom emerges. Knowing God well, knowing the text well. Being around people from whose experiences in the world and in life with God, from whom you can learn. That didn't come out as a very clear sentence. There are godly people around whose experiences you can learn from. Some were good experiences, some were bad experiences. But you're in a good place to access other Christians as resources, who've thought carefully about this stuff and who are anxious to articulate it, share it. That's what I'm trying to say. So wisdom literature is a category. We're dealing with books like Job, books like Ecclesiastes, books like Proverbs, books like the Song of Solomon, Song of Solomon. Some people put Lamentations into this category. So, immediately you're picking up on the fact that there's some different genre categories going on within this big wisdom category. What I want to do is I want to concentrate on Proverbs in a bit, but let me talk about Job, let me talk about Ecclesiastes, let me talk briefly about Song of Songs, and then we'll concentrate our attention from there on Proverbs. All right? When it comes to Job, just gonna make some random observations here, you turn them into a list. My first encouragement is, don't run from Job. You know, do preach and teach Job. It's hard because it's such a big chunk of material. But we need to preach it because it deals with an important theme. And this whole issue of how to understand God in relationship to human suffering. It's just one of the big themes. And everybody else is talking about and dealing with this stuff. It's crazy that in the literature department of universities, you will see Job incorporated into a university class in literature as an example of great ancient literature dealing with a compelling and ever-present human theme. That they'll talk about it at some university and then it's undervalued, you know, in church. Yeah. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and preach it because, I mean, other people recognize the value